What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we are going to be looking at the 4-1-2-1-2 version 2 tactics, which is the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. So instead of the left and right mids, is going to be a left and right center mid. Now this is going to be somewhat similar to my 4-3-2-1 instructions in a couple of ways. One, it's going to be pretty attacking. We're not going to have our left or right backs on anything besides balanced. Now this is going to be somewhat similar to our 4-3-2-1 instructions. The only differences being, where players are initially positioned, but it is going to be an attacking formation with a lot of forwards and our midfielders going forward as well. So keep that in mind. So going into it, as I mentioned with all my instructions and tactics videos, that the tactics I rarely talk about a lot just because it's something that you guys need to decide on yourself based on your own play style. However, in this formation, there are a couple of things that I do want to talk about. For one is the defensive width. Now, this is a pretty narrow formation, but I do want it to go a little bit more narrow. The reason being is because our left and right backs, while they are defenders, they're going to be pushing up the field fairly often. So the reason is we want our defensive mid and our two center backs to be the main defensive line. Though that triangle right there is going to be our main defensive line. So we want them to be, strong in the middle. I personally feel as though when the ball is in the middle, that's where I tend to panic a little bit more. So the more support defensively I have in the middle, the better. The other thing is associated with offense, specifically the players in the box. I only have it on 3. The reason being is because, one, I feel as though when there's too many people in the box or too many people forward that I get a little bit overwhelmed and I don't know who to pass it to. 2, it may help prevent counterattacks as well, just so that not everyone is running forward. Again, we are going to have a lot of attackers, right? We're going to have our left and right backs going forward, potentially our 2 center mids, our center attacking mid, our 2 strikers, right? That's 7 out of the 10 outfield players that are almost going to be involved in the attack every single time we have the ball. The other thing is that when it is on 3 is that there's going to be more chance for a cutback. So let's say I'm running down the wing with the right back. When it is on 4 or 5, you can see in this little graphic at the bottom right that when it's on 5 specifically, there's like 3 players in the box. There's going to be a lot of players in the box essentially. When it's on 4, those few players that are getting in the box are going to get super far forward. And when that happens, the center mids also tend to push up a little bit, right? Your team is going to be maintaining its shape. So the further up your strikers get, the further up your center mids get. It doesn't really matter how many players are in the box, it's still going to do that. So again, it's the further up your strikers are and your attackers are, the further up your center mids will go. So again, that's why I have it on 3. So then the strikers are in the box, but they're not so far up that they're also dragging the center mids with them. When it comes to this tactic, the players in the box being at 3 is actually probably the most important, and probably the most important when it comes to this entire instructions video. So make sure you only have it on 3. Otherwise, you may have too many people forward and then you're going to get counterattacked. And then I will inevitably be blamed for that. So next up are going to be the instructions. Obviously with the center backs, we never touch them. They are just going to be on default everything. With the left and right back, it's going to be very similar to the 4-3-2-1 as I mentioned, as are a lot of these instructions actually. So with the left and right back, we just have them on balanced attacking runs, and then we have them on an inverted run type. As I mentioned in the 4-3-2-1 instructions, when it is on inverted run type, they're not just going to be running inside every single time. Goretzka is a center mid. He plays narrow, he plays in the center. So Florenzi is not going to be running in the center there. If I drag Goretzka out wide, then Florenzi is going to be running on the inside, and that's good, so then we don't have so many people on the wings being bunched up and crowded. Essentially, what this inverted run type does is if Goretzka goes out wide, Florenzi kind of replaces him as that center mid, and then Goretzka kind of plays as that right back, which is really good for that, free-flowing footy that that you want to play. We also have this on the left back as well. So again, as I mentioned, the 4-3-2-1, you do want these left and right back players to be very complete. So Florenzi is literally perfect for this position. He can go forward, he can go back, he has high work rates. That's literally perfect. Schultz, on the other hand, is probably not the best because while he is pretty good at dribbling and passing, his shooting is not very good. So someone who would actually be good is Inform Guerrero, because while he's not the most insane player, he actually can go forward very, very well, and he can also defend fairly well too. Next up is the defensive mid, and this is where I mentioned before in the tactics that this is going to be the base of your defense. This triangle here with Andre, Delaney, Kapembe. That is going to be your main defender. So don't think of Andre as a defensive mid. Don't think of him as a midfielder. He's going to be a defender. In this point in time, he is a defender now. So because of that, we actually have him on drop between defenders. So then he actually does drop between the two center backs, effectively making him a center back, and then also making sure he does not go forward at all. Now, the last thing is man mark here. Now, this is something that could just be something for me personally, but I actually noticed when it was on balanced defense, even though the description specifically says this defensive mid will keep his shape and stay in the position to defend, I noticed he actually roamed a little bit from side to side, at least a little bit more than I wanted him to. So when I have him on man mark, he tends to stay a little bit more centrally. I'm not saying he'll, always stay there, but he does stay a little bit more centrally more often of the time, which again is weird considering that balanced is supposed to do what I want him to do, and yet he doesn't do that. Next up, we have our center mids, and we have them on default everything besides cover center. Now, we have them on cover center. The reason being is so they don't go out wide. When you are defending, yes, your left and right backs are going to be going forward, but if your opposition or opponent has the ball for a good amount of time, your left and right backs will still come back, right? As I mentioned in my 4-3-2-1 instructions, the home base, their actual position is where they're going to go back to when defenders are defending or attackers are attacking. So in this case, again, when your opposition has the ball, your left and right back will play left and right back. They will come back, so we don't really need anyone out on the wing. Along with that, if we actually had them on the wing, that would leave a lot of trouble for Andre, because then there's going to be a lot of space in the middle. So we want Paulinho and Goretzka, our center mids, to be more narrow, so then Andre isn't alone defending everything in the middle. We also have him on balanced attack. The reason being is mainly because of that players in the box tactic like I was talking about before. They won't go forward so much to the point where both of them are going to be inside of the box, because we only have 3 on our players in the box tactic. Yes, occasionally some of them will be inside of the box, but it only will be when it makes sense. And even in that case, when that happens, your center attacking mid will replace them as well. So if Paulinho goes forward, Talisca will kind of sit back a little bit and play that center mid. So I would recommend your center mids to actually have some good all-around stats, just good box-to-box stats, and also potentially high work rates. I know Goretzka doesn't have the high work rates, but I do believe that he is good enough at essentially everything to kind of be left alone, and so far he has actually been doing the job pretty well. Next up is going to be your center attacking mid, and we have him on stay forward and get into the box for crosses. Now we have him on stay forward because then there's a little bit of an outlet. If we are defending, we have everyone back, we can quickly get it to Talisca, and then we can just go from there, hopefully getting another pass over the top to one of our 2 strikers. But again, it's mostly so then we can either replace it with one of the strikers. So let's say one of our strikers gets the ball, holds up the play, or then center attacking mid is going to go around them and then go forward, essentially making that center attacking mid the striker. Now this center attacking mid is going to be a very fluid formation. As I mentioned before, if one of the center mids goes forward, our center attacking mid will essentially take his spot and kind of sit back a little bit. Now it doesn't happen so often to the point where you need your center attacking mid to have very good defending, but it's just something to potentially keep in mind, that you will potentially have to, defend at least a little bit, a couple of times a game, maybe once or twice with your center attacking mid, at least to the point where they are defending as a center mid. I would recommend, however, your center attacking mid to be very, very good at shooting, because they will be making runs past these strikers fairly often. So, Talisca here, he's perfect because yes, he can pass, he has decent pace and dribbling, but he's obviously a very good shooter as well. So he is perfect for this center attacking mid position. Lastly, we have our 2 strikers. They are both going to be on stay central and get in behind. Now, specifically for Bamba, I have him on stay forward just because of his high work rates. I notice when strikers have high work rates, specifically high defensive work rates, that they kind of tend to sit back a little bit and not go forward like I want them to. So, again, it's more specifically just because he has high work rates. For example, Sane doesn't, and I don't have him on stay forward, so keep that in mind. Now, obviously, we have him on stay central because we are going to have some people who are providing width for us with our left and right backs, and potentially our left and right center mids, so we want our strikers to be more central. And we also want them to be get in behind, because then that pushes the back line back. So when we are having a build-up play, our strikers are not going to be involved very often. They're either going to get the ball over the top if the center backs or opposition's defenders don't mark these guys, or they're just going to have a couple of touches here and there in the build-up play and then sprint forward to push that defensive line back. Now, they may stay on the ball for a little bit, just because, as I mentioned, if you hold up the play, then your center attacking mid will be making a run in behind, but that doesn't mean they're going to be, touching the ball very often. Usually it's going to be a touch or two, pass it off, maybe one touch in the build-up, hold up the play, and then pass it off again. So keep that in mind. So that is going to do it for this instructions video. Again, a very fun and attacking formation. It's something where if you are down, you can definitely use it, or if you are very good at defending, you can use that as well. And again, it's a very fun and attacking formation in a game that is riddled with drop back and people being defensive, one depth, stuff like that. So I do think it is a very good formation to use. So as I said, that is going to be it. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I will try to answer them for you guys. But like I said, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.